The bell above the cafe door gives one last tired jingle as she turns the sign from open to closed. Chairs are already flipped onto tables. The espresso machine is hissing out its final breath. Outside, the street has thinned to headlights and silence. She exhales. Another shift done. Another night survived. She reaches for her bag under the counter. A soft knock hits the glass. Not loud. Not urgent. Deliberate. She freezes before she looks up. There's no one scheduled for pickup. No delivery. No friend. The knock comes again, 2 slow taps against the window. She shouldn't open the door. The rule is simple. After closing, you don't unlock it for anyone. Especially not men who arrive alone this late. He stands just beyond the reflection of the cafe lights. Dark coat. Hands in his pockets. Not impatient. Not smiling. Watching. She considers pretending not to see him. The lights are still on. He knows she's there. He lifts his chin slightly, like a man accustomed to doors opening without resistance. Her fingers hover over the lock. Something in her chest tightens. This was the moment public space stopped protecting her. She turns the key anyway. The click sounds louder than it should. He steps inside without brushing against her, without thanking her. The air changes when he crosses the threshold. Cold follows him in. Not winter cold. Controlled cold. He scans the room once. Not curious. Assessing. We're closed, she says, steady but quieter than she intends. He looks at her like he already knows that. I just need one last coffee. His voice isn't demanding. It isn't loud. That makes it worse. She gestures toward the darkened menu. Machines almost off. He doesn't move toward a table. He doesn't take off his coat. He simply stands there occupying space. Then turn it back on. It isn't a threat. It's an expectation. Her instincts tell her to refuse. Say no. Call someone. But the street outside is nearly empty. And he hasn't raised his voice. He hasn't stepped closer. She walks back behind the counter. The espresso machine sputters as she presses the button again. Her hands are steady. She forces them to be. From the corner of her eye, she sees him watching her movements. Not her face. Her hands. Her routine. As if memorizing something. What kind, she asks. Black. No sugar. No milk. Simple. Peanut. The grind of beans fills the silence between them. She becomes aware of how alone she is. No dishwasher in the back. No barista cleaning the patio. Just the hum of machines and his breathing somewhere behind her. The coffee pours in a thin, dark stream. She sets the cup on the counter. He steps forward for the first time. Close, he looks younger than she expected. Late 30s, maybe. Clean jawline. Eyes that don't wander. They land and stay. He doesn't touch the cup immediately. Instead, he looks at her name tag. Says her name once. Toughly. She stiffens. She never told him. You're open late most nights, he says. Not a question. People like coffee, she replies. People like routine. He finally picks up the cup. Takes a slow sip. Doesn't flinch at the heat. Outside, a car rolls past slower than the others. Headlights linger briefly against the window before continuing down the street. She notices. So does he. His eyes flick toward the glass and back. A faint shift in his posture. Almost imperceptible. The temperature drops another degree. He sets the cup down carefully. Too carefully. Then he reaches back toward the door. Her stomach tightens. What are you? The click of the lock cuts her off. He slides the bolt into place and pulls the blinds halfway down with one smooth motion. Café is sealed. Her breath catches. Why did you do that? She asks, and this time her voice isn't steady. He doesn't look at her right away. He listens. To something outside. To something she can't hear yet. Because, he says finally, calm as ever, we're not alone. The street that felt empty a moment ago suddenly feels crowded. Heavy. Pressurized. She realizes she doesn't know this man's name. Doesn't know why he chose this cafe. Doesn't know what followed him inside. She only knows the door is locked. The blinds are down. And she let him in. He takes another sip of coffee as if this were ordinary. As if locking her inside with him were simply part of the order. Her pulse pounds in her ears. The espresso machine clicks off behind her, forgotten. Outside, a car engine idles. Too long. Too still. She looks at him again. Controlled. Dangerous. Who are you? She whispers. His gaze meets hers fully now. Unblinking. Someone who shouldn't be standing in your cafe right now. The engine outside doesn't turn off. Wait. And so does he. Why does he lock the door behind him? The engine outside keeps idling. She hears it now. Low. Patient. The man doesn't rush. He doesn't move toward the door again. He moves toward her. Not close enough to touch. Close enough to claim space. He lifts the cup, studies the surface of the coffee like it holds an answer. He doesn't act like a customer. Customers fidget. Customers scroll through their phones. Customers make small talk to fill silence. He watches. Her hands. Her breath. The way she shifts her weight when she's nervous. He takes in the room as if it belongs to him. You close at 11:45 most nights, he says casually. Not a question. Her pulse jumps. You've been here before, she asks. He doesn't answer directly. You wipe down the counter twice before turning the sign. You hesitate before locking the door. His eyes meet hers. You hesitate every time. The air thins. This wasn't random. He knew her routine. She forces herself to stand still. If you're not here for coffee, then what? He takes another sip. Sets the cup down with precise care. I am here for coffee. Faint sound outside. Car door opening. Then closing. The engine shuts off. Her throat dries. He notices. Of course he notices. Relax, he says softly. They're not here for you. Not yet. Recognition hits her slowly. Not from his face. From the tone. From the way he speaks like events bend around him. She has heard that tone before. In whispers behind the counter. In headlines no one reads out loud. In warnings delivered quietly to girls who work late shifts. She looks closer now. The sharp cut of his coat. The faint scar at the edge of his temple. The calm that doesn't belong in ordinary men. The name forms in her mind before she says it. She stops herself. Saying it makes it real. He watches her understand. And doesn't deny it. Recognition narrows options. The stories come back to her. Not celebrity gossip. Not social media rumors. Different stories. Contracts erased overnight. Businesses changing hands without paperwork. Men who crossed him and vanished without spectacle. She steps back unconsciously. He notices that too. I don't wait in lines, he says quietly. I don't call ahead. His gaze slides toward the door. And I don't knock twice for places I don't intend to enter. The weight of that settles into her spine. Why here? She asks, and her voice is thinner now. He doesn't answer immediately. Instead he walks slowly around the cafe. Fingers brushing the back of a chair. Eyes scanning the walls. He studies the framed photos of the cafe's early days. Her father in one of them, smiling behind a younger version of the same counter. His gaze lingers there. Family business, he says. Third generation. He swallows. You've done your research. He gives the faintest hint of a smile. Not warm. Not cruel. Just certain. I don't step into rooms without knowing the exits. A shadow passes across the glass door. Someone outside. Watching. She turns instinctively. He doesn't. He already knows. They're impatient, she whispers. They're disciplined, he corrects. Impatience gets people killed. The word lands hard. Killed. He says it the way other people say late. Or expensive. Usual. She forces herself to breathe slowly. Why are they here, she asks. Because I am. Simple. Direct. The implication presses in on her. Danger follows him. Not because he chases it. Because it chases him. You should leave, she says. Before this becomes what? He interrupts softly. She doesn't finish the sentence. He steps closer now. Not threatening, just present. You recognized me, he says. It isn't pride. It's observation. Yes, she admits. Silence stretches between them. Outside, a second car pulls up. Doors open. Blows. Footsteps on pavement. You shouldn't have opened the door, he says. I know. And yet you did. Beat passes. Something in his eyes shifts. Not softness. Calculation adjusting. You're not afraid enough, he says. The statement unsettles her more than a threat would have. Maybe I'm tired of being afraid, she replies before she can stop herself. He studies her again. Longer this time. As if recalibrating. The footsteps outside stop near the door. A hand tests the handle. It doesn't budge. The bolt holds. You locked it, she whispers. Yes. To keep them out. He looks at her directly. To control when they come in. The realization sinks deeper. He didn't lock the door to trap her. He locked it to manage timing. To decide when violence enters. The imbalance becomes clear. This isn't a man reacting to danger. This is a man managing it. The footsteps retreat slightly. Murmurs outside. Waiting for instruction. Waiting for him. She finally says his name. Quietly. He doesn't confirm it. He doesn't need to. The confirmation is in his stillness. In the way others orbit without being seen. Why this cafe? She asks again. This time he answers. Because it's quiet. He looks around once more. Because you close late. His eyes return to her. Because you don't call for help quickly. The truth lands colder than the night air. She steps back another inch. He doesn't follow. He doesn't need to. I chose this cafe, he says calmly. Specifically. The word echoes between them. Not wandered into. Not stumbled across. The men outside shift again. Waiting. Watching for a signal. She feels the walls of her own business tightening around her. Recognition had narrowed options. Now choice is gone. Why? She asks, barely above a whisper. He picks up the cup again. Finishes the coffee in one slow swallow. Sets it down with finality. His gaze doesn't leave hers. Why does he say he chose this cafe specifically? He doesn't answer her question immediately. He studies the empty cup instead, as if the reason is written in the dark ring left at the bottom. Then he looks up. I don't like being watched, he says quietly. Not defensive. Not angry. Just honest in a way that feels dangerous. Her throat tightens. You said you chose this place. I did. He glances toward the windows, toward the street beyond the glass. It feels quiet. A faint smile that never reaches his eyes. Safe. The word sounds unfamiliar in his mouth. Outside, the engine of the first car starts again. Then stops. Idles. Too long. Too deliberate. She hears it now the way prey hears rustling grass. He hears it too. Course he does. His shoulders shift slightly. Not fear. Adjustment. You brought them here, she whispers. He doesn't deny it. They were coming anyway. He walks toward the front window but keeps enough distance to avoid casting a clear silhouette. He tilts his head slightly, listening rather than looking. They've been following me since the bridge. The information drops casually, but her pulse spikes. Bridge. Following. This isn't coincidence. This is pursuit. Then why stop, she asks. He turns back to her. Because I don't like being watched. The repetition carries weight now. He didn't come for coffee. He came to break visibility. To disappear in plain sight. To force whoever followed him to reveal themselves. Her cafe is a pawn in a game she never agreed to play. You used my shop, she says. I borrowed its silence. Outside, a second engine starts. Then another. The low hum of coordinated movement. She steps backward instinctively. You said this place felt safe. It does, he replies. For me. The distinction chills her. The car outside rolls forward slowly. Stops again. She sees shadows moving past the frosted glass. He doesn't flinch. He steps closer to her instead. Not touching. Just close enough to lower his voice. If something happens, he says, stay behind the counter. Don't run toward the door. Her breath stutters. Something. He doesn't answer that. He moves with sudden precision, flipping off 2 interior lights near the window. Café dims. The street reflections grow stronger on the glass, turning the inside into a mirror. She can barely see him now. He blends into shadow. You planned this, she whispers. I prepared for it. There's a difference, and he makes it clear. Outside a door slams. Hard. Then another. A step. Rest. Not the slow pacing from before. Urgent now. The shift is immediate. The quiet has cracked. Recognition narrows options. Her phone vibrates on the counter, startling her. Unknown number. She looks at him. He shakes his head once. Don't answer. The vibration stops. A second later it starts again. This time the screen lights up with a message preview. Leave now. She doesn't know the number. He sees the glow. His jaw tightens slightly. They're not subtle, he murmurs. Then it happens. Not at the door. Not at the window. Somewhere down the street. 3 sharp cracks split the night. Gunshots. Distant but not distant enough. She freezes. He doesn't. He steps toward the back hallway instantly, calculating exits. The men outside react too. She hears shouting. Tires screeching. The cafe windows rattle faintly from the echo. Her heartbeat pounds in her ears. Was that? Yes. He doesn't soften it. They're testing range. The calm in his voice is worse than panic would be. You said they were following you, she says. They were. He moves toward the door now but stays to the side, watching reflections instead of looking directly. They wanted confirmation. Confirmation of what? His eyes flick to her. That I would stop. The implication sinks in. He didn't come for coffee. He came to force confrontation. The gunshots weren't random. They were a signal. His danger had just entered her life. The engine outside revs suddenly. Car speeds past the cafe, too fast for the street. Another follows. The shadows that were standing near the door vanish. The silence that returns is thinner. Fragile. She exhales shakily. Is it over? He studies the street for a long moment. No, simple. Final. They know where I am now. She grips the counter to steady herself. And they know you're inside. The words fall heavy between them. He doesn't deny that either. Instead, he walks back toward her slowly. Deliberately. I didn't intend for you to be involved, he says. It almost sounds like an apology. Almost. But you opened the door. Her chest tightens. Blame wrapped in truth. You locked it, she fires back. A flicker in his eyes. Respect. Amusement. Disappears too quickly to name. If they come back, she says carefully. What happens? He considers the question. Not emotionally. Strategically. They won't come through the front. Her stomach drops. Then where? He doesn't answer. Instead, he reaches into his coat. Slowly. She stiffens. He pulls out a small matte black object. Not a weapon. Phone. Different from the one he used earlier. Secure. Untraceable, she assumes. He types one message. Sends it. A few seconds later, distant sirens begin to wail. Not close yet, but approaching. You called the police, she asks. No, he replies. I redirected attention. The sirens grow louder. Not random. Coordinated. Whoever followed him will have to withdraw or risk exposure. He orchestrated this too. He always has a second move. She feels the realization settle deep. This wasn't a spontaneous stop. This was a calculated pause in a larger war. And her cafe just became a marker on that map. The sirens passed 2 streets over. Not stopping here. Just close enough to disrupt. The engines outside fade. One by one, the street empties. But the damage isn't noise. It's visibility. He steps closer to her again. You're part of this now, he says quietly. Not a threat. Fact. Her pulse spikes. Because I opened the door. Because they saw you inside with me. The weight of that lands harder than the gunshots. She looks toward the dark window. Toward the street that has gone still again. Too still. Did they see her standing beside him? Did they mark her face the way he did earlier? Did they decide she mattered? The quiet stretches between them. Heavy. Permanent. Did they see her inside with him? He doesn't wait for her agreement. His hand closes lightly around her wrist. Not rough, not tender either. And he guides her behind the counter. Stay low, he says. Not a request. A command disguised as concern. The sirens fade in the distance. But a new sound replaces them. Engines. Different rhythm. Controlled. Deliberate. Not hunting. Arriving. She peers over the counter edge. Two black SUVs glide into view, parking with quiet precision along the curb. Doors open in sync. Men step out. Earpieces. A scanning. Not police. Not random. The front door handle rattles once. Then a coded knock. He moves to the door but keeps his body angled away from the glass. He unlocks it just enough to let them slip inside one by one. Café changes instantly. Or tightens. The space that smelled like coffee now smells like leather and gun oil. Clear, one of them mutters. Another checks the back hallway. A third positions himself near the window. She watches from behind the counter, heart racing. It's fine, he tells her calmly. Too calmly. They're mine. The word echoes. The men don't look at her directly, but they clock her presence. Register. Quiet calculation. She feels catalogued. One of them begins closing the blinds. Another locks the back door. A third pulls something from a bag. Small cameras, black, magnetic. They move with silent efficiency. What are they doing, she asks. He doesn't hesitate. Securing the perimeter. The first camera snaps into place above the entrance. Another near the espresso machine. Another aimed at the alley door. Wires are hidden. Devices blink to life. Her café is no longer hers. It's a controlled zone. You can't just, she starts. I can, he interrupts softly. Not aggressive, just factual. Protection feels different when you didn't ask for it. The men continue their work. One walks toward her with a tablet. Ma'am, please step aside. She freezes. Why? Line of sight adjustment. He's polite. Efficient. She steps back slowly. The tablet scans the room layout. He marks something. 2 more devices are installed within minutes. The counter where she once handed out receipts now holds silent surveillance. You don't need all this, she insists. He steps closer again, lowering his voice. You don't understand what just happened. Then explain it. Brief pause. Not because he doesn't know the answer. Because he's choosing how much to give her. They confirmed location, he says. They tested reaction time. And they now know I care enough to stop. The weight of that lands hard. Caring is leverage. She exhales slowly. So this is about you. His gaze sharpens. It's about anyone within 10 feet of me. A guard approaches him quietly. 2 vehicles seen earlier circled back once. They're gone now. He nods once. Keep 1 unit outside. The guard obeys without question. The door locks again. Heavy. Final. She looks around her café. Lights dimmed. Windows sealed. Armed men standing where customers once laughed. You're turning this into a fortress, she says. For tonight. And tomorrow. He doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he reaches for her hand again. Not to restrain but to steady. You're safer near me. The apology in his tone is real. The control in his actions is stronger. I didn't agree to this, she says. You opened the door. It's the second time he's said it. The implication shifts. Choice becomes responsibility. She pulls her hand back. That doesn't give you the right. He studies her face. Something soft flickers, then disappears. No, he says quietly. It doesn't. Yet the cameras remain. The guards remain. His presence remains. Outside, one of the SUVs repositions slightly, blocking a clearer angle to the cafe. She notices. Course she does. Even the street is being reshaped around him. A man steps behind the counter, checking beneath it. She flinches. Relax, the guard mutters, not unkindly. Standard procedure. Standard for whom? Not for her. She used to close alone, wipe tables, count cash, walk home under streetlights with nothing more than keys between her fingers. That version of closing is gone. Irreversible. One of the guards hands him a small device. He presses a button. The faintest buzz hums through the cafe. Signal scrambler, he explains. No outside transmissions. Her phone sits useless on the counter. Her connection to the world shrinks quietly. You're cutting me off, she says. I'm preventing tracking. By isolating me. He doesn't argue. Silence confirms it. Protection that isolates is control in another form. He walks toward the window again, scanning reflections instead of looking straight out. They won't try again tonight, he says. Why? Because now it's loud. He swallows. So this is temporary. He turns to her fully this time. Nothing involving me is temporary. The statement is not pride. It's warning. She leans back against the counter. Café feels smaller. Even with guards spaced out, even with doors locked, the air feels thinner. Safer. But trap. Protection feels different when you didn't ask for it. One of the guards checks his watch. Another murmurs into his earpiece. Everything is under control. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. But control always has a price. You should go, she says suddenly. He raises an eyebrow. And leave you exposed. This was never my fight. His expression tightens slightly. It became one the moment they saw you with me. There it is again. Visibility equals involvement. Then tell me who they are, she presses. Beat of silence. Longer this time. The guards glance subtly toward him, aware of the shift. He considers. Decide. A faction that doesn't agree with succession, he says at last. Succession. Inheritance. The word settles cold. Not random enemies. Not street criminals. Internal. Political. Violent. They want you dead, she whispers. He tilts his head slightly. They want me unstable. The distinction is worse. And you think hurting me does that? She asks. It would. He doesn't look away when he says it. No hesitation. No deflection. That truth is more dangerous than the gunshots. She feels it settle deep in her chest. So this is going to keep happening, she says slowly. Not a question. He doesn't answer directly. Instead he walks closer again. The guards subtly adjust positions, forming a perimeter without being told. His world operates without noise. Tonight, he says, voice steady. You stay here. Not asking. Not negotiating. She looks around at the cameras. The guards. The locked doors. Her cafe transformed. Contained. Claimed. Who exactly is trying to kill you? She asks finally, voice barely above a whisper. His eyes darken slightly. Someone who shares my blood. The guards think she isn't listening. They underestimate how quiet a cafe becomes when fear settles into the walls. She keeps her movements slow, wiping the same spotless counter again, head slightly lowered. But her ears are open. Two of his men stand near the back hallway. One whispers, barely audible. If they think he's building soft alliances, this confirms it. The other exhales. They already believe he's weakening. They think she's the proof. Her hand stills. The cloth stops mid-wipe. Weakening. Proof. She keeps her face neutral. Keeps breathing. The men don't notice. Or they don't care. He shouldn't have stayed this long, one mutters. Optics are bad. Ticks. Not safety. Not risk. Ticks. She moves toward the sink to rinse the cloth, heart pounding. The water runs to cover the sound of her breathing. They think she matters. Not as a person. As leverage. She glances toward him. He's near the window again, speaking quietly into a secure phone. Controlled. Untouched by the tremor running through her chest. She watches the shape of him in the reflection of the espresso machine. The man who asked for one last coffee. The man whose presence pulled gunfire into her street. The man whose enemies are now discussing her existence as strategy. This was no longer a random encounter. She dries her hands slowly. One of the guards steps aside to let another adjust a camera angle. They don't treat her like a bystander anymore. They treat her like a variable. That shift is subtle, but permanent. She moves closer to the hallway as if to grab extra napkins. The two men lower their voices further. If she runs now, it looks coordinated. Exactly. They'll assume she's his civilian channel. She presses her back lightly against the wall. Civilian channel. Alliance. Weakness. The rival faction doesn't believe he walked into a cafe for silence. They believe he's building something outside bloodlines. Outside crime. Outside tradition. And she is the evidence. She isn't collateral damage. She's narrative. And narratives are dangerous. Her stomach tightens. If she leaves now, if she walks away tomorrow, what does that signal? That she was planted. That she completed a task. That she extracted information. Leaving makes her look guilty. Staying makes her look complicit. The narrowing is suffocating. She steps back into the main area before anyone notices her absence. He ends his call and turns slightly toward her. His eyes study her face. He senses something shifted. You look pale, he says quietly. I'm fine. He doesn't believe her. But he doesn't press. One of his guards approaches him. They've already started moving pieces, the guard says. Messaging networks are active. He nods once. Let them talk. The guard hesitates. They're saying the civilian is a pressure point. Civilian. Not her name. Not her face. Pressure point. He doesn't look surprised. He doesn't look angry either. Just calculating. That was inevitable, he says calmly. Inevitable. The word hits her harder than gunshots did. She steps forward before she can stop herself. I heard them, she says. Silence falls between them. The guard stiffens slightly. He gestures subtly for space. The men move back without question. Heard what? He asks. That I matter. She doesn't soften the phrasing. Doesn't pretend confusion. He studies her carefully. Measuring what she knows. Measuring what she suspects. You were always going to matter, he says. The honesty unsettles her more than denial would have. To you, she asks. Beep. To them. That's worse. She folds her arms tightly across her chest. So this wasn't random. He doesn't answer immediately. His silence stretches too long. That's the answer. This was no longer a random encounter. Did you know they were watching? She asks. His gaze shifts slightly. Not away, but inward. I suspected they might be. Her breath catches. And you still came in. I needed somewhere predictable. Predictable, she echoes. You. The word lands heavily. She laughs once, short and disbelieving. You walked into my cafe because I'm predictable? Because you're not connected. He steps closer. Not threatening. Not gentle. Just close enough to lower his voice. They think I'm forming alliances with civilians to shift perception. To build influence beyond blood. He swallows. And am I that? He watches her carefully. They believe you are. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. Her options tighten again. If she distances herself now, it confirms their suspicion. She stays close, it feeds it. Either path strengthens the narrative. You could have warned me, she says quietly. Warned you that my enemies might misinterpret a coffee. Warned me that standing next to you changes my life. His jaw tightens slightly. The first crack in his calm. It already has, he says. The air between them shifts. Not romantic. Not tender. Strategic. Dangerous. So what am I, she presses. Leverage. His eyes darken faintly. Your exposure. That's the truth. She feels it settle deep. Exposure on both sides. For him she signals softness. For her he signals danger. The guards reposition subtly again as someone outside taps twice against the SUV window. Signal. Controlled. Coordinated. The world keeps moving. And she stands in the center of a narrative she never consented to join. If I leave, she says slowly, it looks like coordination. Yes. If I stay, it looks like alliance. Yes. So either way I lose. He doesn't deny it. He steps even closer now, lowering his voice further. Leaving now makes you look guilty, he says quietly. The confirmation is soft, but final. That's the irreversible change. Her exit has consequences. Her neutrality is gone. So what was this, she whispers. A mistake. He studies her face for a long moment. Then he answers. A calculation. The word hits harder than anything else tonight. Calculation. Not impulse. Not coincidence. Not random quiet. He walks toward the counter again, placing both hands flat against it. The cameras blink softly above them. The guards stand in silent formation. They needed proof I was shifting, he continues. You provided it. Her pulse spikes. Without knowing. Yes. A heavy silence follows. She looks at the door. Guarded. Monitored. Not just physically. Strategically. This was no longer a random encounter. Did you walk into my cafe, she asks slowly, or place yourself there deliberately? He doesn't answer immediately. He looks at her the way he did when he first stepped inside. Controlled. Certain. And that silence is louder than any confession. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't pressure. He simply shifts the conversation as if discussing weather. You can't stay here, he says, glancing around the cafe that still smells like burnt espresso and tension. She folds her arms tighter. This is my business. It was. The correction is soft. Not cruel. Just factual. Outside, one of his vehicles repositions. Engines idle low. Controlled. Coordinated. Her cafe is no longer neutral ground. It's a mapped location. They've already marked this address, he continues. If you sleep here tonight, you won't sleep. She doesn't respond. She hates that he's right. He steps away from the counter and speaks without looking at her. There's an apartment downtown. Secure floor. Private elevator. No paper trail connected to you. She feels the narrowing immediately. No, the answer comes fast. Instinctive. I'm not disappearing. It's not disappearance. He meets her eyes. It's insulation. She shakes her head. From your enemies. From consequence. The word lands heavier. One of his men approaches quietly and hands him a tablet. He scans something briefly. Dismisses the guard with a nod. The decision is already in motion. You won't come back here for a while, he says calmly. You don't get to decide that. They already have. The truth sits between them like a third presence. He isn't threatening her. He's outlining reality. What about my staff, she asks. Compensated. My lease. Handled. My life. Was. Protected. Protection feels different when it rewrites your world. She turns away from him, staring at the cafe door. Her reflection looks unfamiliar in the glass. This place was small. Predictable. Worse. Now it's a liability. He walks closer but doesn't touch her. Your salary will triple, he says, voice steady. In exchange for what? Stability. She almost laughs. You don't trade in stability. No, he admits. I trade in containment. Honesty again. Strategic. Disarming. You're offering me relocation like it's charity. It's mitigation. She looks at him sharply. For you. For both of us. The room is quiet except for the hum of refrigeration units and distant city noise. You wait. That's what unsettles her most. He doesn't push. Doesn't intimidate. He simply stands there patient. As if he already knows time is on his side. If I refuse, she asks. You won't be refused. Not aggressive. Just certain. She feels the narrowing again. Public spaces stopped protecting her. Now independence is shrinking too. Temporary, she says firmly. I go until this passes. Then I come back. He doesn't argue. That's worse. Temporary decisions in violent worlds become permanent. You'll have your own space, he says. Guards posted outside. Not inside. Phone. New one. Restrictions. Faint pause. Minimal. She studies him carefully. Define minimal. Location sharing. That's not minimal. It's necessary. Necessary. Always that word. She exhales slowly. This isn't about comfort. It's about leverage. If she remains visible without protection, she becomes bait. If she relocates under his system, she becomes asset. Either way, autonomy erodes. One of the guards opens the cafe door slightly to speak into a mic. The sound of distant sirens passes by but doesn't stop. Life outside continues. You can walk away, he says quietly. Right now. She looks at him sharply. Without protection. Yes. And survive. He doesn't answer. That's the real offer. Freedom without safety. Or safety without freedom. She closes her eyes briefly. Her chest feels tight. She didn't ask for this. Didn't ask to matter in someone else's war. But neutrality evaporated the moment she opened the door after closing time. How long? She asks finally. Until the narrative cools. And if it doesn't, it will. His confidence is unsettling. You don't even sound worried. Worry wastes energy. So does arrogance. A faint shift in his jaw. Not anger. Recognition. This isn't arrogance, he says. It's containment. Again that word. She hates it. She walks toward the counter, picks up her keys, hesitates. This place once felt stable. Now it feels exposed. If I agree, she says slowly. It's temporary. Of course. He says it easily. Too easily. She notices that. No public appearances. Agreed. No claiming me as leverage. Small pause. Agreed. That pause lingers in her mind. He gestures toward the door. One of his men steps forward with a coat for her. She doesn't take it at first. Then she does. That's the moment. Subtle. Irreversible. She accepts temporary protection. The air shifts slightly. His guards move with new precision. Routes recalculated. The vehicle repositioned. Her life quietly restructured. She locks the cafe door herself this time. The click echoes louder than it should. He doesn't touch her as they walk outside. But his presence surrounds her. Engines start. Doors open. The street feels different. She slides into the back seat. The door shuts. That sound feels final. He sits beside her. Not close. Not far. Controlled distance. The car pulls away from the curb. The cafe shrinks in the rearview mirror. She watches until it disappears around a corner. You'll be safe, he says. She stares forward. Safe isn't the same as free. He doesn't respond. City lights blur past the tinted windows. Her phone buzzes once in her pocket before losing signal. The new phone will replace it soon. Clean. Monitored. Managed. Temporary decisions in violent worlds become permanent. She feels it already. The car turns into a private underground entrance. Steel gates slide open without pause. No guards question him. No one hesitates. The system accepts him without friction. And now it accepts her too. The vehicle stops. Private elevator waits beyond glass doors. She doesn't move immediately. He waits again. Patient. Controlled. As if he knows she will step forward. She does. The elevator doors close. The city vanishes beneath them. The higher they rise, the further she drifts from the life she understood. He doesn't look at her. Just forward. Certain. False safety wraps around her like a tailored coat. Warm. Restrictive. Designed to fit. The doors open to a quiet hallway. Dim lighting. No visible neighbors. Controlled silence. She steps out slowly. Temporary, she reminds him. He nods once. The agreement hangs in the air like a promise neither of them fully believes. She walks into the apartment first. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Clean lines. No clutter. No history. Doesn't feel like home. Feels like placement. He remains near the entrance. You can rest, he says. We'll handle the rest. The rest. She nods slowly, scanning the unfamiliar space. Security cameras discreet but present. Locks reinforced. Silence heavy. What does accepting his help cost her? The first photo surfaces before sunrise. Grainy. Taken from across the street. She's stepping out of his vehicle, head slightly turned, unaware of the lens catching the moment. By noon it's everywhere. Not mainstream media. Not official channels. But in the networks that matter. Private groups. Encrypted feeds. Message boards where reputations are traded like currency. Her name trends in circles she didn't know existed. She sees it on the new phone he gave her. A notification that doesn't come from her contacts. Just a link. No sender. She hesitates before opening it. When she does, her breath stalls. There she is. Outside the cafe. Outside the building. Beside him. Frame after frame. The narrative is already forming in captions. New leverage. Civilian attachment. Weakness confirmed. She feels the shift immediately. This isn't gossip. It's assessment. He walks into the room while she's staring at the screen. He doesn't ask what's wrong. He already knows. They work fast, she says quietly. He takes the phone from her hand, scrolls once, expression unreadable. Yes. No denial. No reassurance. Just confirmation. Outside the apartment windows, the city looks calm. Traffic flows. People move. But inside his world, calculations have started. It's just pictures, she says, trying to steady her voice. Nothing happened. That's not what matters. He hands the phone back. Perception is enough. In this city, proximity is confession. She understands that now. Being near him translates into alignment. Into influence. Into vulnerability. You said this would cool down, she reminds him. It will. Doesn't look like it. He moves toward the window, scanning the street below even though they're too high to see details. This is noise, he says. Noise turns into action. A knock hits the door. Not aggressive. Controlled. One of his men steps inside without waiting for permission. He speaks quietly in a language she doesn't understand fully, but she catches one word clearly. Bounty. The room shifts temperature again. She doesn't need translation. On who? She asks. No one answers immediately. That silence confirms it. On me, she presses. His man nods once. Efficient. Clinical. It's not official, the guard adds. Yet. She swallows hard. How much? Another pause. A number is spoken. Not whispered. Stated plainly. It's enough to change loyalties. Enough to make strangers interested. Enough to make desperate men ambitious. Her chest tightens. Why me? Because you're accessible, his guard says before he can stop himself. A sharp look from the boss silences him. Accessible. The word echoes louder than the amount. She's not powerful. Not protected by reputation. She's human. And humans are easier to remove. They think you matter to me, he says calmly. Do I? She asks. The question hangs longer than it should. You matter to the narrative, he replies. Strategic, controlled, but not fully honest. The guard steps back out. The door shuts softly. The apartment feels smaller. You said I'd be safer near you, she says quietly. You are. There's a price on my head. And they can't reach you here. That sounds like confidence. But it also sounds like containment. Her face appears again hours later. Clearer photo this time. Leaving a secured parking level. Someone inside his own circle must have leaked it. The realization chills her. It's internal, she says slowly. He doesn't deny it. Rivals assume emotional weakness. And emotional weakness creates fractures. Fractures create opportunity. I didn't ask for this, she says. No, he agrees. You didn't. His phone vibrates. He steps aside to answer. His tone shifts instantly. Harder. Sharper. Orders delivered without hesitation. Routes changed. Personnel rotated. Security doubled. Her life recalculated again. Irreversible. Bounty changes everything. It means strangers will study her routine. It means drivers might look twice. It means a waitress from down the street could recognize her from a screenshot and decide curiosity is profitable. This will pass, he says after ending the call. It always does. For you. The correction is quiet but sharp. He looks at her then. Really looks at her. Measuring something beyond strategy. You can leave, he says unexpectedly. Now. Before it escalates. She laughs once. It's hollow. Leave and go where? My cafe. My apartment. My old life. He doesn't answer. Because they both know that door closed the moment she let him inside after hours. Her face is attached to him now. Digitally. Socially. Strategically. They won't stop if I disappear, she says. They'll just assume you're hiding me. Correct. There's no comfort in his honesty. The new phone buzzes again. Another message. Anonymous. Just 3 words. It's public now. She locks the screen immediately. Her breathing feels shallow. How long before someone tries? She asks. Soon, he says. Not cruel. Just realistic. The word lands heavier than the bounty number. She moves toward the window, staring at the city lights. If I'm alone, she says slowly, I'm a target. Yes. If I'm beside you, I'm a statement. Yes. Which is worse? He steps closer but keeps distance. Alone, you're vulnerable. And beside you. Beat. You're strategic. Strategic means useful. Useful means protected. Until no longer useful. She closes her eyes briefly. The city has noticed her. And cities don't forget easily. The security team rotates again outside the apartment. More guards. More cameras. More adjustments. Each layer of protection increases exposure. Each defense confirms importance. A bounty has been placed. Not on him. Her. The reality settles slowly, heavily. This isn't about affection. Or rescue. Or coincidence. It's about leverage. You should have left me in the cafe, she says quietly. I couldn't. Why? He doesn't answer that one. Silence again. Calculated. Or conflicted. She can't tell. In this city, proximity is confession. She is confessing something just by standing near him. And now others want to erase that confession permanently. The room feels quieter than it should. The world outside still moving. Unaware. She turns to face him fully. Tell me the truth, she says. Am I safer beside you or alone? He studies her expression carefully. And for the first time he hesitates before answering. The announcement isn't planned. It isn't calculated. It isn't filtered through strategy. It happens because someone laughs. A lieutenant. Mid-level. Brave enough to smirk. Brave enough to say it lightly. Boss, maybe we should rotate the civilian out. She's becoming expensive. The room stills. They're gathered in the upper floor conference room of one of his secured properties. Long table. Floor-to-ceiling glass. The city below, blurred by height and rain. She wasn't meant to be here. But he insisted. If they're hunting her, she hears what I hear. That alone unsettled them. She stands near the window, arms folded, not speaking, not shrinking either. The lieutenant continues. A bounty on a civilian draws noise. Noise draws law enforcement. We eliminate noise. Eliminate. The word lands like a quiet threat. He doesn't react immediately. He studies the map projected on the screen. Rival territories, movement routes, financial corridors. Then he says it. You don't eliminate her. Simple. The lieutenant tilts his head slightly. With respect, sir. She answers to me. The room shifts. Subtle. Breath. A glance exchanged. But it happens. His top captains register the difference instantly. Not we protect her. Not she's an asset. Not she's leverage. She answers to me. Ownership language. Personal language. She feels the change ripple through the room before she fully processes the words. He steps forward closer to the table. If anyone has a problem with that, he continues evenly, you can say it now. Silence. But silence doesn't mean agreement. Means calculation. When power becomes personal, empires crack. One of the older lieutenants clears his throat carefully. Sir. Rivals already believe attachment exists. This confirms it. Let them, he replies. That's the line he crosses. Because for years, he built his authority on detachment. Cold decisions. Equal distance. No emotional leverage. Now he just created it himself. She looks at him sharply. You didn't have to say that. Yes, I did. That wasn't strategy. No, he agrees. And that frightens her more than the bounty ever did. The meeting dissolves quickly after that. Orders are issued. Guard rotations adjusted. Surveillance expanded. But the tone has changed. Not fear of rivals. Internal tension. As they exit, two captains walk behind them. She hears one whisper, low enough that it's almost lost. He's compromised. The word lodges in her spine. Compromised. He walks beside her toward the elevator, expression neutral. But his jaw is tighter than usual. You didn't need to escalate it, she says quietly. They needed clarity. You gave them vulnerability. The elevator doors close. The guards remain outside. It's just the two of them now. He exhales slowly. You think I don't see what this looks like? I think you don't care. The elevator descends. Caring is not the same as weakness, he says. In your world, it is. He doesn't answer. The doors open into the underground garage. Armored vehicles waiting. Engines running. He gestures toward one. She doesn't move. What? He asks. You didn't protect me just now, she says. You marked me. Yes. The honesty is brutal. If they wanted proof, she continues, you just handed it to them. I handed them a line. And crossing it has consequences. That's his belief. But consequences work both ways. As the convoy pulls out into the rain, headlights cutting through darkness, she watches the side mirrors carefully. Two motorcycles trail them at a distance. His driver notices. So do I, she says quietly. He glances back. Sees them. Let them watch, he says. But the motorcycles don't peel off. Stay. Through two turns. Then one of his security vehicles shifts position, blocking the riders. A brief flash of motion. Sharp braking. The motorcycles disappear from the mirror. Too clean. Too rehearsed. That wasn't coincidence, she says. No, he agrees. Internal. He doesn't confirm. He doesn't deny. Silence again. By the time they reach the secured residence, the rain has intensified. Thunder rolling low across the skyline. Inside, the guards double-check entry points. Windows. Cameras. Access logs. She feels eyes on her differently now. Not protective. Assessing. He gives a short command. No one speaks to her without my approval. Another line crossed. You're isolating me, she says once they're alone in the hallway. I'm controlling variables. I'm not a variable. You are now. That's the truth neither of them wanted to admit. He steps closer. Not threatening. Not soft either. You think I don't know what this cost, he says. What did it cost? Authority. Crack small but real. They'll test you now, she says. Yes. And if they succeed. They won't. That confidence has protected him for years. But tonight feels different. Upstairs, one of the lieutenants sends a message from a secure device. Just 3 words. He chose her. It doesn't go to a rival. It goes to someone inside the organization who has been waiting. Waiting for proof that the boss is no longer untouchable. She stands by the window again, watching the storm gather over the city. You should have kept it strategic, she says quietly. He stands behind her, not touching. It stopped being strategic when they put a price on your life. That wasn't about me. It is now. The storm cracks lightning across the skyline. Somewhere in the organization, someone recalculates loyalty. Somewhere else, someone drafts a contingency plan. Because empires survive detachment, not emotion. She turns to face him fully. You just made me more valuable, she says. Yes. And more dangerous. Yes. And more disposable. That one lingers. He doesn't answer. Downstairs, a guard rushes toward the operations room. A security feed flickers briefly. Blind spot. Only for a second. But someone was testing it. Someone inside his organization saw what happened in that conference room. Saw the shift. Saw the attachment. And decided to measure it. She steps away from the window. Tell me something, she says. What? Who inside your organization sees this as weakness? The first sign isn't loud. It's absence. The morning barista from her cafe doesn't show up for shift. No call. No message. Just an empty apron hook and a phone that goes straight to voicemail. She tells herself it's coincidence. People quit all the time. People disappear from low-paying jobs without warning. But by noon, 2 unfamiliar men are sitting at the corner table of the cafe. Not drinking, not speaking, just watching the door. By evening, her landlord calls her twice. The 3rd time she answers. His voice isn't angry. It's shaken. Some men came by asking about you, he says. They wanted to know when you moved out. I told them I don't know anything. She closes her eyes. He continues, whispering now. They weren't police. The line goes dead. She doesn't have to ask who sent them. It wasn't him. His methods are cleaner. More contained. This feels like a ripple. Retaliation that doesn't aim at the center. Spreads outward. Protection always leaves a trail. She stands in the secure apartment he relocated her to, staring at the city below. She thought the threat would be direct. Bullet. Car bomb. Something cinematic. Instead, it's erosion. People around her thinning out. She confronts him that night in the operations room. Screens glow blue. Live feeds. He's issuing orders when she walks in. He dismisses the guards with a look. Tell me it wasn't because of me, she says. He doesn't pretend not to understand. Retaliation is rarely about the target, he replies. It's about pressure. On who? On me. Through who? Was. Too long. That's the answer. She steps closer. My landlord. My coworkers. They're being touched because I'm standing next to you. They're being touched because my rivals think I care. Do you? His jaw tightens. That's not the point. It is the point. Because if he didn't care, none of this would have escalated. If he treated her like an asset instead of a person, she would be one more protected civilian under guard. Instead, he stood in a room full of captains and claimed her publicly. Now the city is testing that claim. Another message arrives mid-conversation. One of his lieutenants steps inside quietly. The cafe employee, he says carefully. She's been found. Found. Not safe. Found. The lieutenant doesn't elaborate. He doesn't need to. The silence is heavy enough. She feels the weight settle in her chest. Not guilt yet. Not fully. Something colder. Recognition. This is how power punishes. Not loudly. Precisely. She looks at him. Fix it, she says. We will. That's not what I meant. She means undo it. Erase it. Reverse it. But there is no reverse in his world. There is only counterstrike. We can relocate your landlord, he says. Compensate the family. Increase internal sweeps. Compensation. Like this is a logistics problem. They're paying for proximity, she whispers. He doesn't deny it. He steps closer instead. This stops when my rivals understand the cost outweighs the gain. And what will that cost, she asks. He doesn't answer directly. That's the most honest response he can give. Later that night, she scrolls through news feeds on a secured tablet. A short article appears. Local cafe temporarily closed due to internal investigation. No details. No names. Clean. Quiet. The world resets publicly while lives fracture privately. She sets the tablet down. If I leave, she says softly, does this stop? He looks at her sharply. No, because they'll still think I matter. Yes, and if I stay, they'll know you matter. The difference is thin, almost meaningless. She laughs once without humor. So I'm leverage whether I walk or stand still. You're leverage because they believe I value you. There it is again. Not denial. Not deflection. Value. The word binds tighter than any security detail. Another call comes through. This time from his intelligence division. A rival faction has begun spreading rumors intentionally. He's protecting a civilian. He's distracted. Investors hesitate. Allies question. Loyalty trembles. Her existence is no longer personal. It's political. She steps back from him slowly. You should cut me loose, she says. Publicly. His expression hardens. That would confirm vulnerability. So would a body count. He studies her for a long moment. You think I don't know what this costs? I think you underestimated it. Silence settles between them. Heavy. Final. She walks toward the balcony doors and stares at the city lights. Somewhere out there a cafe worker didn't go home tonight. Somewhere a landlord is packing quietly, afraid of another knock. Violence doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes it knocks softly and waits. Protection always leaves a trail. She feels it now. The invisible chain linking her to his name. It's not romantic. It's not dramatic. It's administrative. Recorded in whispers and surveillance logs. You can't undo this, she says without turning around. No, he agrees. And you can't shield everyone connected to me forever. No, then answer me honestly. She finally faces him. Can I walk away without someone else suffering? By dawn the city looks ordinary again. Delivery trucks hum past the cafe windows. Morning commuters scroll their phones, unaware that during the night something shifted beneath their feet. No sirens. No headlines. No public arrest. The rival faction that had been circling him goes quiet all at once. Counts freeze. Warehouses close. A mid-level captain boards a flight that never lands where expected. Silence spreads faster than violence ever did. She stands behind the cafe counter when the sun cuts through the glass. The door sign reads open. The espresso machine hisses like it always has. Customers line up with tired smiles and small talk about traffic. Nothing looks different. That's the most unsettling part. The world resets cleanly when powerful men decide it should. Silence returned, heavier than fear. She pours coffee for a regular who complains about milk prices. Her hands are steady. Too steady. A part of her expected chaos. Instead there is order. Outside across the street a black SUV idles. Not subtle. Not hidden. Just present. One of his men pretends to read a newspaper inside. Seated near the window. Another stands by the back exit. Café is open. The cage is invisible. Around 9, he walks in without entourage. No announcement, just presence. The line parts without being asked to. He nods once at her like they are strangers. "One last coffee," he says quietly. The same words as that first night. Only now they mean something else. She makes it without asking how he takes it. He doesn't drink immediately. He watches her instead. "It's done," he says. "They won't move against you again. Because they can't." He doesn't elaborate. He doesn't need to. She already knows what erasure looks like in his world. Clean, efficient, permanent. A notification buzzes on her phone. An unfamiliar banking alert. He frowns. "What is this?" she asks, scrolling. "Property transfer. Ownership documents." She reads the address twice before it settles in her chest. It's the Café. "What did you do?" Her voice stays low but sharp. He sets the untouched coffee down. "I removed your vulnerability. By buying my building. By buying your future before someone else could use it." The words land heavier than any threat ever did. "You didn't ask me. If I asked, you would have said no. Because it's not yours to control." A flicker crosses his face. Not anger. Certainty. "It is now." A customer coughs politely, waiting to order. She forces herself to take the next ticket, steam milk, hand over a cup. The normalcy feels surreal. Between transactions she leans toward him. "You said this was temporary. So was the threat." "Temporary decisions become permanent," she whispers, echoing his own warning from days before. He doesn't deny it. Outside, the SUV engine turns off but doesn't leave. The guards remain. The cameras mounted overnight blend into the brick facade like they were always there. "You're safe," he says. "I'm owned," she corrects. A silence stretches between them, not hostile, not tender, just real. Customers continue to come and go, unaware that the building beneath their feet changed hands before sunrise. He reaches into his coat and slides a folded document across the counter. Not a contract. Indeed. Her name is still printed on the Café license. Publicly, nothing changed. Legally, everything did. "You can still run it," he says. "You just won't lose it." "To who?" "To anyone who tries to touch you through it." She studies him. "And if I decide to walk away?" "You won't." It isn't a threat. It's an assessment. That's what unsettles her. He isn't forcing her to stay. He's eliminating the paths that would allow her to leave cleanly. The bell above the door rings again. Morning rush swells. He finally lifts the cup and takes a slow sip. "You make it stronger now," he observes. "I learned," she replies. "From fear. From you." He nods once, as if that answers something. Another alert hits her phone. Her landlord's account shows a cleared balance. It's paid. Lease secured long-term. Not charity. Strategy. Every loose thread tied before someone else could pull it. She exhales slowly. "You didn't rescue me that night," she says. "No. You placed yourself there." He meets her eyes. "I needed somewhere no one would expect me to be." "Refuge," she murmurs. "Yes." The realization settles fully now. She thought she was serving coffee. He was choosing refuge. The Café wasn't random. It was selected. And when rivals interpreted that selection as attachment, he made it real to maintain control. The door opens again. Sunlight floods in. Ordinary. Bright. Deceptive. He steps back from the counter. "Run your café," he says. "Live your life. Within your perimeter. Within my protection." The difference is semantic. She watches him walk out, flanked subtly by men who blend into the crowd. The SUV pulls away only after he's gone. But one guard stays inside. Always one. She wipes down the counter slowly. The espresso machine hums. The bell rings. Customers laugh. On the surface, nothing changed. But the building belongs to him now. The land beneath her feet is part of his empire. She didn't sign anything. She didn't agree. Yet her future was purchased before breakfast. Silence returned, heavier than fear. She glances at the reflection in the glass door as another customer leaves. For a brief second she sees herself differently. Not just a barista. Not collateral. Not leverage. Landmark. A fixed point in a powerful man's map. By morning she understood. In his world being seen is ownership.